We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Sean Blackburn with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Meredith Wood. She's the VP of Content over at Fundera. Meredith, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. Can't complain. So we're going to be talking about the benefits of original content today. But before we jump into that, I'd love to give people a little background on yourself and also what you and the team over at Fundera are up to these days.
Absolutely. So I've been at Fundera for 4.5 years. I originally came on as our editor-in-chief to sort of launch a content strategy, and it's grown into a full-on organic marketing department where I oversee traditional content editorial, SEO, partnerships, both content partnerships as well as referral partnerships in our affiliate program, and product marketing and press. And before this, was at a smaller fintech B2B startup where I had somewhat of a similar role where I also oversaw customer support and larger partnerships. And prior to that, my background is actually in theater and the acting world. So it was a complete and total transition for me into this industry. But there's a lot of synergy with the storytelling component. For Fundera, we are a marketplace for small business financial solutions. We provide expert insights and tailored options from loans to credit cards to banking. So business owners can shop and compare their financial options and essentially make better business decisions by doing so.
Love it. And you guys have had a lot of success with original content. So definitely am excited to kind of unpack what it is you guys have done there at Fundera and how it's, grown to a completely inbound sales organization like we were talking about before we started recording. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the Ledger.
Yeah. So when we first launched, this was so we turned 5 years old in February this year. We started our content strategy in the summer of 2014.
Cool.
And we originally were like, let's build a site that tackles some of the very difficult subject matter that a business owner will come across throughout a small business loan application. And when we first started, we were just focused on loans. And there are all sorts of things that somebody can come up against, especially when you're a marketplace and you've got products from SBA products to shorter term loans that price themselves out differently, that have different parts of the application that can be quite complicated. This idea of how can we help push our customers through the funnel. And so that was sort of the first foray into the Ledger. But what quickly became clear was that there was a real appetite for what we were producing. So we took a step back and asked ourselves, can this be something that instead of just sort of assisting through the customer funnel, that we actually use to acquire customers at the top of the funnel, and invested in this idea of both, can we build out content that indicates that somebody is in market for what we're selling, and try to write for that organically in a search engine and bring them to our site. And then second, can we write content that indicates somebody is in our demographic, that they fit the profile of our customer, even though they may or may not be in market for our product, and get their email and nurture them to a point in time where they might be in market for our product, which obviously is a product that you don't want to sell unless somebody really needs. And so that was sort of the birth of that. I think the thing that we felt that there was something that was missing in the market in this sense is there wasn't any sort of publication that had a total financial angle for small businesses in particular. And there was a lot of fluff out there. Like people, I think, are very nervous when they publish content online to get specific and to go in depth and take time to really take a complicated topic and break it down. And so we decided that we wanted to take that on and take these financial concepts that might be quite complicated and spend the time, even if it took 2,000 or 3,000 words, to break it down for business owners or trying to help themselves through these scenarios.
How did you guys pick in the beginning where to start with kind of, I hear that it was a niche for you, but it's somewhat overwhelming sometimes when you're looking at a niche to know where to begin. Did you guys have a strategic plan with that, or did you just kind of go with what was working?
I say a little bit of both. I think at the end of the day, the only way this ever works is if you test into it, and you're going to have assumptions that something might work and it can fall flat on its face. And then you have things that surprise you that you lean further into. I think the one thing we kept telling ourselves is, again, why should we be the ones doing this and not somebody else? And so this is something that I think a lot of companies try to blog and create a content strategy, and it doesn't necessarily go as far as it can for them because I think they have trouble identifying their unique voice during the process. And so for us, we've always had a tremendous advantage in the small business lending space being a marketplace, which is we're sort of set atop of it, and we're an unbiased view of what's out there and why and how somebody can work through that. And that's where we started, this idea that like this is what we do, and we do as a business, and therefore have access to information that a lot of people wouldn't. So let's focus about that. Let's not necessarily write small business marketing tips, because why should somebody come to us for small business marketing advice right now when we're in fact somebody who's a specialist in the small business lending marketplace? So that was something that we kind of had to first really be disciplined about. I would say we've since sort of expanded on that, but it's like, what are you particularly good at that you've started your company for and are better at anybody else? And that advice you can give can be so much more specific and so much more thought out than if you were trying to tackle a topic that you aren't as experienced with.
It's that self-awareness as a company, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So obviously you guys kind of started with this content strategy. What's been some of the benefits that you've seen for Fundera as a company hosting this original content?
So it's how we acquire customers. 80% of our site traffic is organic and it's through content. About 65%, maybe a little bit more of total company revenue is generated through content, whether that's through original acquisition of signups or through other sources of revenue. So it's been tremendous. I think that we are obviously very happy where it ended up economically. It's an incredible channel in the sense that it is so affordable in so many ways compared to other performance marketing channels. And you get customers that come in with a little bit more awareness of your brand, a little bit more trust, which is very important for obviously the sectors we're in. So they tend to convert better and be worth more to us long term. I think it's also been something that has opened up opportunities for our business in ways that we would have never imagined. And so clearly, like when I say it's not just been helpful, it's actually defined our business. But the other thing that I emphasize is, again, how it opened up opportunities. So I had mentioned that when we originally launched, we were a marketplace for small business loans. And as you heard me talk about Fundera, we're now a marketplace for small business financial solutions. And we're actually able to help people shop and compare things beyond loans. And the reason we decided to do this was because we had so much traffic in these areas where, like, clearly this is something that business owners are wanting to learn more about and try to navigate. Like, there's no reason we shouldn't also be doing this here. So we actually had the demand, and then we're able to sort of evolve our business model to meet it on the supply side too.
I love that. You were able to take the content you were producing yourself, gave you, new options for, different product offerings that the market was hungering for. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey guys, chances are you're running SEO, PPC, social, email, and other digital channels. So why aren't we spending the same time and attention on our highest converting channel, referrals? We all say we value word of mouth because we know it brings our best leads that end up being our best customers. But most of us aren't using referrals as an active marketing channel. Enter the definitive guide to referral marketing from our friends over at Ambassador. To get your free copy, head over to getambassador.com/growth. You'll learn best practices, tips, and strategies to generate positive and organic word of mouth by building your own scalable referral program. Learn from the world's leading referral company, Ambassador, trusted by leading marketers at HubSpot, Zillow, and Gong.io to build and scale their word of mouth programs. Again, go get your free copy of the definitive guide to referral marketing at getambassador.com/growth. And if you want to talk to their experts there, just drop them a note. All right, let's get back into the show.
A lot of times we talk about content and content is king. And, what does that take whenever it looks like an organizational level? Maybe just unpack that quickly, the sort of organizational, commitment that it takes to be someone who is committed to being an inbound company versus doing outbound marketing.
So content is king. That's only true if you believe it's true and you actually prioritize and resource it as so. The one thing that I see happen with a lot of companies that decide they want to do this is they actually don't properly resource it out or properly invest in the program. They think that putting a 500-word blog article up once a week or once a month is going to be enough to make a difference for their business, or they invest in somebody very junior to kind of launch the program off the ground, which it's never going to work. But if you bring in somebody who's done this before, who knows the playbook, that you're able to publish really helpful content that's the best on the internet on the subject, and are able to put in the proper resources to publish it at enough frequency and at enough quality that, again, it fits that sort of bill, that's when you'll start to see the results. So it's a mentality shift. I think something, especially with young companies, start just taking off. They want instant gratification. They want to do something and they want to see instant results from it. But these companies that build different types of marketing tactics that absolutely build a competitive moat around their business, it's not something they did overnight. There's a reason it's a competitive moat, because it can't be replicated overnight or with a larger sort of spend. And content is one of those things. It's very disciplined. It takes time. So you have to kind of go into it with a bit of blind faith, but know that you're being led by somebody who knows the right steps to get there. It's kind of like going to the gym and you're entrusting yourself to a personal trainer. It's going to take time to see the results, and you have to do some of the same things over and over again, but you're being led by somebody you trust. So these are the right things in order to see those results, and hopefully you do end up seeing them.
I love that. Yeah. So real commitment to time and commitment to, resourcing and a commitment to excellence. What are some of the other ways that companies can own original content strategies and push them forward? Something super practical. Say if any of our listeners are in an organization where maybe that buy-in isn't there, or they're just getting that buy-in, what are some of those next steps that you would take if you were coming into an organization like that?
So numbers are always, I think, as a marketer, your best friend. I think it would be sizing out any potential opportunity. So let's say you wanted to take a written article, sort of SEO approach, and you wanted to make the case for it. I would do a tremendous amount of keyword research that highlight terms that show people are in the market for your product, and size out what that actual traffic looks like, so that the business can get an idea of what you're talking about in terms of quantity. But the other thing I'll emphasize that with content strategies is it doesn't always have to be a quantity play. A lot of time you will find the people that have searched for, to use our example, small business loans in the search engine, they convert at such a higher level because there's such a high intent. You don't necessarily need to make the quantity play, but if you can actually show what these people are likely to convert with. So another example is, let's say you size up the opportunity and it's not ginormous, but at least you know what the traffic size potential could be. Running a Google campaign on those terms just to get an idea, if you don't already, of how they convert, how many people are clicking through to the search engine, and then how are they converting to your actual product should give you an idea of, okay, we can say that this channel does in fact perform very well for us, because you can see it's the exact same user. I say there are some users that are smart enough to know to go around the ads at this point, but it can help you get that early indication of look, these people will convert better even if the traffic size is not ginormous because of that level of intent. And then you have to account for the fact that the ROI will obviously be larger than it would on any Google campaign because you pay much less when you actually do an organic or content campaign because it's essentially headcount and production costs.
Where do you see content marketing going in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? What are some of the trends that you're noticing, and what are you guys looking at Fundera as, leading the market?
Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. I think the thing that we've already started to see is these brand publishers really competing with traditional publishers on acquiring traffic. And I think there's going to be a world where that continues to blur more and more, and which I actually think will be really powerful for all publishers in the end, because there will be a clear monetization strategy where I feel like since there's so much competition for viewership right now, again, it's going to come down to that quality, like really getting paying to be right in front of the right people versus just any people. Right. And so I'm excited to watch those lines blur, because I think as more people who come from a traditional journalism background get into content marketing, the overall quality of the content produced by organizations is going to improve. So that's really exciting for me. I think to watch. I would also say data is sort of a role in all this. I think data journalism is something that's very, very hot in content marketing right now. And I think we've only seen the first level of that. And I think some of the most interesting reports we will see over the next 5 years will actually come from brands who have been able to do an analysis of their data or of their data and partners' data. And also what that means for the customer experience and the personalization of content because of the data that they have on people, and knowing what they like to read. Do they like to I think this idea of is somebody a reader or somebody a watcher? And that idea of, do you show them a video version of something or a long form version of something or a short form version of something that kind of appeals to what we know about this user and what they like. So I think that's really interesting. I think that social media is going to be something that changes entirely, because it's such a crowded space right now. It's very hard to get in front of users with all the algorithm changes. And so I'm kind of curious if new platforms emerge, or if that sort of very segmented route continues to evolve. It's less about being on one social network because everyone's now on 10 different ones based on who they are and their sort of demo. And you as a social media manager have to get really good at 15 social media networks instead of 4. But I think that's the biggest unknown, because I think there's a lot of social media fatigue happening. And so that's really exciting. And then I would say the last is video and everything that's happening in entertainment right now with the studios that are kind of trying to figure out how they survive against the Netflix and Amazon and Hulu's of the world, and how do we consume video content in this day and age, as we've seen sort of the merger of traditional publishers and brand publishers. I think we'll continue to see that on the video side as well, where you may not know you're getting your news from a brand publisher, or this piece of content was produced by a brand. So, and we've seen some of that already, so I can only imagine we'll see more of that in the next 5 years.
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see kind of those lines blur. I know that I've already getting some of my sources from brands. So I hadn't even thought of it that way. So you're absolutely right that I think that it's a really strategic way. If you can become the water cooler itself, I think that's super powerful. And it seems like that's what you guys have done at Fundera.
Yeah.
Anything else that you feel like, B2B marketers or salespeople should be able to take away from our conversation today about original content? Any other tidbits that you might have for them?
So I would just say that the way I would summarize it up, if you're considering creating original content for your brand, first and foremost, don't be afraid to be niche. That idea that here's a very specific business, even if it's not a very sexy business. Again, obviously what we do is not incredibly sexy. You know it better than anyone else, so don't be afraid to lean into that and really put your expertise out there. The second is really hold yourself to a high bar when you produce anything. Look at what else is out there on that subject. And when you publish something, be able to confidently say that it is better and more comprehensive than anything else on the internet on that subject. And that bar is very qualitative, but you will know. And when that's sort of the bare minimum, if you hit that, everything else can start to fall in line. If you don't hit that, it's very hard for everything else to fall in line. And the third is just consistency is key. No, it will take time, but you have to be disciplined. You have to know you're investing in the right things and give them time to sort of to transform. if you are not sure you're doing the right things, definitely talk to somebody who's done it before. Make sure you are, in fact, investing in the right things to push those things forward. And that's really how I would summarize it up. It's like, just don't give up.
Right. Stick to the fight. Well, Meredith, this has been a great conversation, and I love the perspective that you have on the importance of original content for marketing and sales efforts for B2B companies. If anybody is listening and wants to follow up with some questions for you or would just like to connect, what would be the best way for them to do that?
They can find me on Twitter. I am Mere_Wood.
Easy enough. Perfect. And then as far as Fundera, what is the best link, or what would you say, what channel would you want to drive people towards for Fundera as well?
So our Facebook is probably, if you want an immediate response, where you'll get one pretty quickly, which is just facebook.com/Fundera. But you can find us on all the major social media networks under /Fundera, except for Instagram, we're Go Fundera.
Love it. Well, Meredith, thanks again for being on the show. Certainly appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.